You are about to journey against the current of contemporary thought and beyond the troubled waters of daily news to the very source of our extraordinary culture. You are going upstream with Cashel and Edge.
Well, we are back one more time. Jack
Hello,
Cashel here.
Jack Cashel. How are you? I used to be Loy Edge.
And you still are, as far as I can tell.
Excellent. I was afraid.
I was afraid, coming in this week, you might have been deported in the meantime, but you're not. You're here.
Well, you were gone a while. I could have transitioned while you were gone. That's how long you were gone. You could have come back here, and I could have been
a male.
A male. Oh, man. You just got me there. Bam.
That's just a minor touche. But no, today, I've been out, and in the course of my travels, I literally drove across the country a couple times. And in fact, this summer,
You drove both times?
I've made
This year?
4,000-mile trips from Kansas City to New York. Yeah, I drove every time.
Wow, I didn't know that. Now, is that mainly because you dread flying?
I don't dread flying.
Or is it because of the convenience of having all your stuff with you in the car?
There's a lot of things.
Is it the peace and quiet of not having to talk to Loy Edge?
That's a big part of it.
Is it because the service has gotten so bad on the airlines that you didn't want to deal with it?
Service has something to do with it. And I am going to make the case that, and I think you're going to dispute me,
Okay.
that we're living in the golden age of service, the golden age of convenience.
Yeah, I would agree with you wholeheartedly, and I would say it's been going the other way the last maybe 4 or 5 years, or since the
The C word.
The C word hit. I think every type of service has gone down. But yeah, you're right. Convenience. We talked about convenience before.
Yeah.
Along with convenience comes something diabolical.
Possibly.
Almost every time.
Right.
Because people let their guard down because they've been handed this lovely, plate of fluffy, sweet convenience.
Well, let me put in a good word for our service economy as it exists now.
Okay.
But I take your warnings to heart.
I'm listening.
Your warnings are prescient in this time, and I think we get to some specific examples. But as I was driving out of Kansas City, first of all, I come up with what I call Cashel's razor, which is the further away you get from the center of a city, the better the service gets.
Wow. I love that. Jack, that's a good one.
I think you could do that with like geometric precision.
Yes.
Right. And so the trick is getting out of the city.
Oh, I agree.
So I'm driving. I have a 1,000-mile drive ahead of me. I do it in 2 days. I have, and I've learned to do it. I could drive from here to New York State without ever getting on I-70 or I-80, which is a real trick.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it, but why I like to drive. So I am just across the Kit Bond Bridge, which crosses the Missouri out of Kansas City. You're probably still in, technically, Kansas City.
Where?
Just north on I-35.
Oh.
I don't know why they name bridges after politicians. This is a little bit of a digression.
That pisses me off.
Me too, yeah. Or anything after a politician. You should name the
I
bridge.
can think of some things you'd name after a politician.
Right. Like
potholes.
Yeah, right. Or a Johnny on the spot, maybe,
Yeah.
But so I pull over into the outside lane, I let a truck gets on, he comes right into me, drives me onto the shoulder.
Oh, man, that's happened twice to me last year.
And clips my side view mirror.
Clipped your mirror.
Yeah.
Damn.
Broke it. So I chased him down. And I didn't think
Did you put the cherry up on top and turn it or pull a Yui and do a James Garner spin around?
I wish I could have.
That's what I would have done.
No, I just shot it out with him. But first I'm beeping behind them. I'm going 80 miles an hour to catch up with him. And we're still in a 55-mile-an-hour zone, which means he's trying to get away.
Sir,
Yeah,
sir.
right. Yeah, it's kind of like that. But then I pull up alongside him, open the window on that side, and I point to my mirror. I said, "You did that, right?" And he pulls over.
Wow.
which is surprising. And he's a Russian or Eastern European. Apparently, they're taking over the trucking industry.
Huh. I don't doubt it.
Because it's hard to find people who want to do that job, even though I think it's a pretty good job.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell him what happened. He said, I didn't feel it. There's no damage to my truck. I said, of course you wouldn't feel it. There's no damage to your truck. You almost killed me, right? But now, in the age of convenience, I pull out my camera, my phone, take pictures of the name of the truck, license plate, this guy's cell phone info, and this poor mug, I have him stand next to the broken mirror. He's sheepishly standing there, take a picture of that.
Now point at it.
Right. So, and actually he had his camera out taking a picture of it. So I have a picture of him taking a picture of the camera. So, you couldn't have done this 20 years ago, 10 years ago. So I I stop up ahead at a rest stop. I look up the phone number for the guy's company, call them, and just say, hey, I live in Mess. Hey, we got a problem here. Your guy just ran me off the road, blah, blah, blah. Broke my mirror. I just like to get my mirror fixed. I'm not, going to make a federal case out of this. And then I get the call back from this guy, who's the boss, and he goes, no, you've got the problem. All you Kansas City scam artists trying to take my money away from us, trying to get my drivers in trouble, blah, blah, blah. I said, I don't believe this call that I'm having right now. I said, here's what I did. Yeah, I had a broken side view mirror, and I said, I know what I'll do. And I'm telling him this. I'm gonna flag down a truck and blame him for my mirror, right? And he's gonna pull over sheepishly and kind of hem and haw about it, right? Yeah. Anyhow.
Wow.
So once he decided to be a prick, I said, okay, gloves are off. Then I just send in, I can do it. I take my pictures. I send the call to the state police. They're very kind. Service great. Send them, all the images and tell them what happened. Bam, I got a police report. So it's not to say I'm getting my money out of them, but it's at least a start. But you could do that in 5 minutes. You could take care of all those problems.
We've got to start fighting harder.
Yeah, but that's part of the whole convenience that we would not have had in the past.
I agree. But that's really utility. That's not convenience. There's a difference.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's and in a sense, in the larger service economy means that you're using technology to your advantage. Now, that technology can back and bite your ass. You know that, right? So that's part of the downside. But because now, though, you can pick and choose among how you want to use the service that we have available to us. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, after what I do is I turn right at Cameron, if you know Missouri. I take 36 across, which is just a totally stress-free road across northern Missouri, divided.
Is it northern or central?
It's northern.
Because I was trying to figure out which one that was.
It's north of I-70, about 50 miles north.
Okay.
And it's divided. No trucks, hardly. Almost no traffic. It's well maintained. You can go 65 miles an hour. It's the speed limit. So it's just.
But it's divided with a
grass median.
A grass median.
Yeah.
Which these days is really important.
Yeah.
Because that convenience we were talking about with the cell phones.
Yeah.
Man, that makes it dangerous being on a 2-lane.
Oh, it does, sure. Right, because exactly right.
I'm watching it constantly for that head-on that punches your time clock in about a half a second.
Right, and you see that. When you see someone coming at you on a 2-lane with a cell phone in their hand.
I was driven off the road twice this year.
Well.
Once I was the passenger, and we had to go off the road. And the second time, I still have no idea how I didn't get smashed by that giant truck.
Wow. And where did that take place?
On the way back from Richmond, Missouri, whatever that highway is.
Yeah.
134, I don't know. I was playing golf out there.
Yeah.
There's a place called Shirky, and if you're in a major metro area like Kansas City and you're not a country club guy, sometimes you got to leave town to get a golf game.
Right.
Because it's just too damn crowded.
Yeah, no.
And that's another, to your point on your theory, what did you call it when the further away you get out of town?
The Cashel's Razor.
Cashel's Razor. Really, especially during COVID,
Right. Oh, yeah.
we would go, okay, I don't know if you have any idea of what went on in golf courses during the height of COVID, but they had little devices stuck in the flag pin so that you wouldn't have to touch the flag and pull it out.
Wow.
They put one person on each cart, or they had plastic in between the carts.
Oh, my gosh.
And
this is in Kansas City.
This is in Kansas City.
Right.
You had to wear a mask when you were going in to register. I mean, it was all the complications that they like to throw at this thing, plus golf-specific ones. You know, you wouldn't be you getting a bucket of balls because you'd be touching those balls, and somebody else would have to pick them up, and whatever.
Yeah.
It was just weird. We'd go out to Richmond, and it's like the water's free. It's in that barrel of ice over there. You just reach in and grab however many you want. And the guy I was playing with, you know, he walks in with his mask. I go, take the mask off. They don't do that shit out here.
You know, and in fact, and I may have mentioned this before, because when I drive across 36, now I make Hannibal a destination. Hannibal, Missouri. Now, the unfortunate part of Hannibal, I was thinking about this, is that, you know, anyone under 50, you know, our sort of cosseted, safe space friends don't know who Mark Twain is. They don't know.
They can't. They had to bury him.
Right. So now you see, when you get to Hannibal, you see like grandparents leading their bewildered grandchildren around town, pointing out, well, I stop at the Becky Thatcher Diner. And I like Hannibal for the reasons you like Richmond. And that is, it's the land of time forgot. COVID didn't come there. It was as though they had painted like lamb's blood over their doors and it just skipped by. So even in the heat of COVID, the Becky Thatcher Diner was mask-free, help everyone, you know. And you have this choice now between a fast food world or a non-fast food world. Mm-hmm. That's why I call this something of a golden age. You have those options. So the Becky Thatcher Diner they don't have servers, they have waitresses. And they call you like sweetheart and darling.
Yeah.
Right. And they're great. They take your order. They're happy to get it, you know. I tip by local standards extravagantly, but I deal in cash. And that's the other thing, is you can deal in cash.
Which I do as much as possible. I think I would hope everybody does.
Because cash, I mean, credit cards are the way they're going to get you.
Yeah. Well, it's one way.
One way. There's
With
lots
AI,
of ways.
it's just
There's a ton of
wait
ways.
and see what these 85,000 new IRS guys have up their sleeve with the AI.
Yeah, yeah.
Apparently, you tipped an extra nickel when you were at the Becky Thatcher, and that's not reflected in this.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm afraid of. And but it's a trip back to an older kind of service that's still available, but you have to look for it.
You got to look for it, yeah.
And so also the gas in Hannibal, for whatever reason, it's like the lowest in the country. It's $3.19 when I was there a week or two ago, and what is it now? $3.79. I don't know what it is now outside, but it's a lot more than that. And also, cigarettes are half the price that they are when you cross the bridge into Illinois.
Really?
Missouri has the lowest cigarette price in the country.
I got to remember that when I get my Philip Morris Commanders, or my my Pall Mall king size non-filters.
I unfortunately don't smoke. Otherwise, you know. But when you see the prices, you think of maybe I could take up cigarette smuggling if everything goes awry. But then you get into Illinois, and I stop at a place that's unappreciated by people who don't drive, and that's Love's Rest Stop. Is it called Love's Rest Stop and Country Kitchen? Right? Have you ever been to a Love's? Mm-hmm. You can.
I think my friend Wilcox, that's all they hit is Love's.
You could live in a Love's.
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah,
that's the only place. Apparently, they have special pricing if you travel over 1,000 miles. Something or other. They've got these volume discount plans that they do for
it's like
for
frequent
my buddy.
flyer travels. Yeah.
And he gets gas for like 8 cents a gallon off or something.
Right, and they have showers.
Yeah,
right. They have washer and dryers. Right?
Really?
Yeah, right. And they have the cleanest restrooms since trucks were invented. I mean, truck stops usually have pretty awful restrooms. These are just, immaculate, and there's bunches of stalls, and it's no waiting, and
They probably don't have the variety of novelty dispensing and adult
they do not.
in the bathroom like all the truck stops did when we were kids. Daddy, what's that? Never mind.
Right. Yeah.
Tips covers only what name implies. What does that mean?
Or the ones I always like the ones that were like the pickleball ones. They had a little spiky on spikes.
Oh yeah. They are
ticklers.
Something for you, pleasurable for her. So I was like, oh yeah.
Well, they don't have those there, which is good because it's kind of family friendly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you could ask them. They do have, however, more varieties of beef jerky than exist in the whole free world. And, huge store, coffee, everything. Everything's reasonable and clean, and everyone's polite, and the wait staff the girls there are not quite as fat as they are at the other truck stops. So it's a good place. But that's a level of service that didn't exist years ago.
Quick Trip is a level of service that never existed. And
all right. Quick Trip is as a local thing is exactly a level of service that was unprecedented in the Western world.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a sense of that when you travel in other countries.
Yes.
There are no Quick Trips, and you wish there were.
I remember when we traveled to Mexico or something as a family. And of course, you'd get that mañana service on, especially when it was time to bring the check or change back, especially.
Yeah, right.
That was an hour.
Yeah.
And to a kid, that was so puzzling. But even back then, we had the golden age going, and it's done nothing but improve until very recently.
Very recently. We'll get to that.
Kind of waning.
We'll get to that at the end here. I just want to remind people that it's not
it's not natural, it's not normal, and it sure doesn't happen by accident.
Right.
This is a hell of a machine we built.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of moving parts, and it has to be driven properly.
That's exactly right.
And the rules have to be followed, the laws have to be followed, and we have to have an active judiciary making sure that this stuff gets done, or you're going to put sand in the gearbox.
All right. We're going to turn our happy little Mayberry RFD service economy into a sort of dystopian Jetson era economy.
Am I doing that again?
No.
Did I get negative?
No, you've been fine. You're fine so far.
Okay. I hate to get negative.
I want to give the positive side because what happens is, and Louis C.K. did a great thing on this. I don't know if you
Oh, that was a classic. Yes, I love that.
On the airplane?
Yeah, about the phones.
No, about the Wi-Fi. I remember he says, he gets on the plane, and he says, and the flight attendant says, now for the first time on Southwest, we have in-plane Wi-Fi, right?
Uh-huh.
So the guy next to him, oh, great. He pulls out his laptop, starts working. And then 20 minutes later or whatever, sometime later, the Wi-Fi goes out.
Yeah, that's the same story.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we have to tell you the Wi-Fi goes. And he goes, God damn it, what's wrong with this? We can't get anything to work right. It's like, and then Louis C.K.'s line is like, everything's wonderful, and you're miserable, right?
Uh-huh.
You expect more, right?
You're on a rocket with wings, a steel tube, jetting 30,000 feet in the air at 400 miles an hour on a wireless thing on a laptop computer that has more capability than the NASA had when they allegedly went to the moon.
Right.
And you are pissed because there was a glitch.
Right.
There was a glitch in the giddy up, and you've had it. You're done.
That's where we are.
That tears it.
Right, that tears it. And when you think back, when I was 12, and this is in the 1960s, we went on a family trip to Florida from New Jersey, which meant we had to drive through the Old South. This is before the interstates. And so the things we take for granted, so for instance, we were once on the Tamiami Trail, which at that time was a one lane either way through the Everglades, which connected the West Coast to Miami. and to Miami, and our car broke down. So now you don't even think about it. I pull out my phone.
Right.
I call AAA. Right. That you didn't have that option then. So my car breaks down, and my father opens the hood. Now I don't even know where the latch for my hood is. I'm not sure I know. I could probably find it if pushed to, but. And then I'd open the hood for my wife's sake and look in there and make believe I knew what was going on. We've become spoiled. I'm a principal beneficiary victim of that. And then he diagnoses the problem. And then he says, I got to go to town. So he starts hitching. And he has a family of 3 kids and a wife. And a Seminole in a pickup truck stops, picks him up. And my mother's convinced that he's going to rob him and kill him and feed him to the alligators. We'll never see him alive again. She's not saying that, but we're sensing that. Hours go by, right? And my father comes back on another hitch with a fan belt, puts the fan belt on, and we're on our way to Miami. That was life in the 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
That's not life today. We're spoiled. We take advantage of it. And yet we don't, going back to the Louis C.K. line, we don't appreciate what we have. We may lose it. So the trick is to appreciate it now. The level of convenience and service that's...
I think that's the point is, please, let's all wake up and realize what we've got because, man, if we let it slip away...
Or if we let them take it away from us.
Yeah.
Selectively at
first.
Right. And they can do that.
They've got all the parts and pieces in place to do it.
Right. And, one company that embodies that transition right now, it's an interesting one, is McDonald's. I like to stop at McDonald's, I should say, when I drive across the country. A couple of reasons. One is that they have a soda fountain that you could fill up on your own. Mm-hmm. And I like to ice up and, so I chew on ice, keep me awake.
And you're always bringing in like your QT cups and filling it up with the McDonald's stuff, but you're hiding it.
Yeah. No, I stick to their stuff. And they're cheap. Everything's cheap. It's $1.25 or whatever. The bathrooms are always clean.
Yep.
Consistently cleanest bathrooms of any fast food
chain.
Yeah. You can buy ice cream, like they're fake ice cream, but it tastes good for like $1.50.
It never worked when I was in there, but
no. Well, it works usually. And what I do is I get a cone and then I put it in a cup. So I crunch the little cone into the cup.
Wow.
Cup of coffee, $3. Still a great deal. And but now so what happened is when I stopped overnight in Indiana, I stayed in a $75 a night motel. I'd been there before. Queen size bed, quiet air conditioning, Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi in the room.
Really?
This is for $75. It smells a little bit like a motel, but I'm by myself. I'm not entertaining. And although when the first time I went there, I said to the guy, I said, what time's breakfast? He looks at the McDonald's across the street. He goes, whenever you get there. We don't have breakfast. They don't have breakfast this place. I mean, I can go down to like the Wyndham down the street for $200 and get breakfast. It's not worth it. But the McDonald's embodies the conundrum in which we all are faced right now. They're doing. Have you been to McDonald's lately?
I did just last week walk into one for the first time in years.
And what caught your attention?
Well, the kiosks, of course.
Yeah, the kiosks.
Right away, not in a positive way.
No.
Because I'm not going to interact with kiosks.
Right.
And again, I hope we verbalize our disappointment in that at every opportunity, even though I don't think that's going to do much good. But I noticed that, I was walking in the morning and I wanted a cup of coffee.
Right.
And since I was not driving, I walked in and I was the exception by far. Cars were funneling through that drive-through like crazy. There were only a couple of people in the restaurant. There was nobody else walking in when I did.
And where was this?
95th and Quivira.
Yeah.
And she acted surprised to see me, kind of like
what's a real adult doing in her
doing here?
Right.
And then I said, small coffee, and and it was $1.
Yeah.
And I took it out of there, and I kind of shook my head and thought, I sure hate going those places.
Yeah, well, and it's because they don't want you in there.
They didn't want me in there. That's how I felt.
Yeah. They want you there. They want you to buy their product, but they don't want you in there. And that's true, again, back to Cashwell's razor. The closer you are to the center of the city, the less
bums rush you get.
Yeah, right.
You're greeted.
Right.
They aren't as good at providing service or convenience or anything.
Right.
But their intent is much higher.
Yeah.
They intend to serve you. They intend to please you.
Yeah.
They acknowledge you.
Right.
And their goal is to be kind and make you feel good.
Right.
None of that stuff applies when you're in the city.
No.
It's like, the hell do you want? Let's go, move it.
You're an inconvenience. You're there for convenience, and you're an inconvenience to them. Mm-hmm. Now, so you haven't tried the kiosk?
No. Oh, hell no.
Not just for ideological reasons.
No, hell no, for any reason. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to do it. I mean, I'm getting to the point where listen, we're getting this, they're abusing us constantly. You call the doctor, they want you to set up an appointment a year from now.
Right.
And I just say, you know what? I quit doing that.
Yeah.
I don't want your appointment, your 1 hour to fit into my schedule, hanging over my head for a year.
Right.
I don't want it.
Yeah.
And it's just, we've got to stop this crap.
Yeah.
We got to tell people no.
Well, there could be at some point the rebellion may focus on McDonald's, where armed peasants with pitchforks rip out the kiosks, because the kiosks represent a dystopian commercial future. I
agree.
Because it does, for them, they do it ostensibly. And I've read up on this because I was curious about that. Because I avoid it because it just looked too complicated. I didn't want to learn how to.
I don't want to learn it. Yeah. It's the difference between a pinball and a video game.
Yeah.
Pinball, you put the quarter in and you're playing.
It's instinctive.
Video game, I don't want to read a set of rules and learn how the protocol.
Right. In fact, I play nothing, no game, no sport in which you have to read a book.
Me too.
Yeah. I dropped chess when we got to the have to read a book stage. Or I dropped bridge when we got to the have to read a book stage.
Yeah. I only read Gorin on bridge every day. But
I do Wordle and I refuse to read anything about how to play it because I figured if I can't figure it out for myself, it's not worth it. Uh-huh. But at this, so I skipped the kiosk, and it's right across from my $75 a night inn where I went to have breakfast. And it dawned on me what the kiosks do is that they force you to use your credit cards.
Yeah.
And then the question is this design sinister or is it just coincidental?
You know where I come down on that stuff.
I know you come down on the sinister side.
There ain't no coincidence.
Yeah.
There ain't no coincidental. No.
But there's a corollary thing going on. And that is, and this I didn't know about until I just looked it up, is that while they are moving to these self-service kiosks, they are taking out the fountains.
Oh yeah,
and they're moving into the back.
Control.
Yeah,
control. They did the fountains self-service like that to cut their expenses,
right?
And because the soda pop was basically free anyway.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
They're going to steal some soda pop? Well, it's better than paying somebody an extra 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And now they don't need to have that shrinkage. It's one cup, and you have to come, sir, may I please have more?
Right.
And then they, they probably say no. I'm guessing it's no. It's 50 cents.
No,
it's
you
$1.
have to pay again. Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, that makes sense. I think that's fair. I don't think that's unfair at all.
Sure.
I mean, at the Becky Thatcher Diner, you get coffee until it comes out your ears.
Right.
Yeah. When that's, as Americans, that's our birthright. We expect that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, are you wrapping this topic up? Because you just made me think about the grocery store situation.
I know. The kiosk is, the whole kiosk phenomena is tied into the grocery store. And the CVSs are doing the same thing now. But I was going to say, though, before I get there, I just wanted my theory on why they're getting rid of the soda fountains, exterior. Right now, if you want to drink, you get a cup. Then you go over to the soda fountain and you get your, for me, it's important because I like to fill my cup with ice. And then sometimes I'll have like a lemonade and I'll cut it with water. I can't ask for that.
You and I do the same thing, and I'm an ice chewer too.
Yeah. Especially when I'm driving. Keeps me awake.
I like to chew ice.
Yeah. Although that reminds me, I have to digress to a story here that's worth telling. I'm in Santa Barbara, California, right?
Okay.
And I go to buy, and if you haven't been to Santa Barbara, it's everyone there is so special and so wonderful, right? And their children are even more wonderful.
Oh,
the few children,
kids are king,
even the few children they bother to have. Mm-hmm. And so I go to a little pizza place where you buy a cup and you fill it yourself, right?
Yep.
So as I'm there, about a half a dozen of these spoiled little brats come in, right? Mm-hmm. They're probably 13, 14-ish, And I go to grab it's a self-serve pizza too, so I'm grabbing a pizza. I put my cup down on the counter, and one of them comes by and takes my cup, right, and runs to the back of the room. No, I grab him. I'm sorry, he doesn't get the chance. I grab his arm. I said, "What's it?" It just took me by surprise. I said, "What's wrong with you?" Grab this thing. Then I get my pizza, and I think, no, I can't let this go unaddressed. These kids need to learn a life lesson, right? So they're in the back tittering. And so I walk back to them. I'm sort of in my Clint Eastwood mode now, and I said, hey, son, this is your lucky day. He says, what do you mean is my lucky day? I said, because if you ran into someone half as civilized as I am, he would have ripped your effing throat out. Right? Don't ever do that again, So that's the first time someone yelled at him in his entire life. So,
and I get it.
Yeah.
You want to do it so that they learn a lesson.
Right.
Basically, it's not because you really give a shit at that point.
Right. They need to learn that lesson.
They need to learn
especially in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Because they're cocooned there. They think everything's perfect. But getting back to McDonald's, my theory, I read up why they do it. I don't believe them.
No, I don't believe them. Thank you.
And
everything's a lie when it comes to this stuff.
Right. And they're in marketing. I get it why they have to lie. Mm-hmm. But you've probably seen as many videos as I have that are something like girl fight at McDonald's, right?
Yep.
How many of these have we seen?
Oh, there's a lot of them out there.
And they often take place at McDonald's because since they're such deep-pocketed places, they could, presume that there's a payoff somewhere. Mm-hmm. And you see these wild brawls among girls of...
Usually.
Yes, of a certain ethnic persuasion often. Going at it,
look
pulling
like linebackers, a lot of them.
These are big girls. I wouldn't want to mess with them. The help doesn't want to mess with them. And then there's some guy taking photos. Ooh, man! Oh,
there's
bad.
Always somebody going, "Ow! Ooh, boy!"
No, like in an era, the male would feel inclined to break this up, compelled. He'd feel ashamed not to break this up. See girls getting beat up and thrown around, and then their clothes get torn off. It gets kind of halfway interesting. Then the weaves come out. It's like it's free for all. Well, I think McDonald's has had their share of those, and they don't want them anymore. And what fountains do is they encourage you to linger, because you could have your Coke or whatever, and then you go back and refill it, and
A good point.
And then you could throw it at each other during the fight.
Good point.
So they don't want you in the store. To your point,
they don't.
Yeah.
They don't want you in the store, and they. As they bring in more security in any sketchy neighborhood, they're all bulletproof glass and plexiglass and kiosk. It's going to be all that way.
And in the inner cities, to the degree that the stores even stay there.
And most of the stores just leave, shut it down.
Right, and they raise the prices, and then people wonder, why is our prices higher? Well, there's a reason for it. You're going to pay them for it. You're paying for girls fighting on videos and guys oohing and eyeing. But that gets us back to the potential downside of this golden age of service. And that is, and you could take it from here because you've tracked this.
The control that they will have, like you said, forces you to go on the credit card. It's the end of cash. They need that.
Yeah.
I went to one of the grocery stores a couple of weeks ago that wasn't I didn't expect it to be full self-service.
Right.
It never was. And I shopped for an hour.
Yeah.
I filled the cart.
Huh. It's like supermarket sweepstakes.
You know, I bought a lot of stuff. I
Yeah.
don't screw around. I usually delay it as much as possible and make sure that I get my 40 items or so, and
Right.
I don't like to run in and get a couple things. Well, I couldn't find a cashier. It had all gone self-service. But somebody had to put all that crap back. It wasn't me.
You just walked around.
I walk right out.
Yeah.
And I suggest everyone consider, instead of just being disappointed and clumsily trying to ring up an entire cart with no place to put anything,
Right.
and trying to sack at the same time,
Right.
instead of some high school kid sacking it, now Mr. Bank President's sacking it, right?
Right. In his own sack.
In his own sack.
Right, because you're not a bag. We call them bags, but in your own bag. And now a lot of these places you got to bring your own bag, right?
I just looked at it, and I've done this many times. If the disappointment is unnecessary and overwhelming and unexpected, there's a cart full of groceries. I'm going to take that hour I spent and go, that was a good hour, because I was creating a lesson for somebody.
Right.
Good luck.
Right.
Goodbye.
Right.
So the bottom line is, whatever they saved not having that cashier, they've got to spend having some other person put it back.
Right.
And if everybody did that, they'd go, wow, this doesn't save us any money.
Yeah.
Let's quit it. So that's why I do it.
And this is where we get down to motive. Now, if the store is seeing that it's self-service aisles, especially when they become dominant.
Which they are now, and most of those places that do it, like it can be like 20-1 at a Walmart.
I mean, it's behavioral modification at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to wean you off your
That's
expectations.
Good point. That's well said. I think everybody feels that, but I've never heard anybody articulate it.
Well,
That's what they're doing.
Yeah. And then the question is, why are they doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Is it in their best interest, or is their corporate ownership beholden to BlackRock or whomever?
Yes.
And saying, for ESG purposes, it's better that we go digital, and we get cash free.
But I think ESG itself is merely a canard for the other things that they want to really do, the real motives.
Yeah.
So I don't think ESG is nothing but a means to an end.
It's kind of a filter from which the deeper, darker motives
I think so.
Come to us as a form of benign social
Yes.
justice.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they've been doing that forever. I mean, that's just the way they operate.
Yep.
And
And our old umbrage conversation comes into all that too.
yeah. Last week's umbrage conversation.
Mm-hmm. That's why I said our old conversation.
I know. I was back when we were wearing other clothes. other.
We were almost going to just switch. Wow, Jack and Lloyd must be living together. They just switched sport coats.
Yeah, like the Bobbsey twins here. No, and that is where my because I could write a very favorable essay on convenience and service,
Mm-hmm. which
which we don't appreciate, as Louis C.K. reminds us,
Mm-hmm.
and we should.
We should, yeah.
But because I remember once, this was in Italy, this is about 25 years ago, and I was driving on my family, and we're driving around the countryside, and I was running out of gas. I pull into a gas station, and they're taking a break from noon to 3.
Yeah.
And
Yep. And the pharmacy started closing for lunch.
yeah, right.
So you're finally getting in there for your diabetes medication, or it's like, oh, I just had this toothache and I got to go in there. We'll be back in an hour. Oh, what? There you go. Now it's just
Well, fortunately for me, I was only there about a half hour before some Italian guy came by and showed me how to use the self-service, right? So because I could have if I had known how to do it.
So they're torturing you
Right.
for not complying.
And then I remember thinking, in fact, I wrote about this at the time. I got back to the United States and I wrote, I wrote an essay about Italy. It was the first time I'd ever spent any amount of time there. And I traveled a lot throughout much of the country. And I said, Italy's a wonderful country. And my punchline was, if only it had a quick trip, right? And then I explained the virtues of quick trip. And then I started getting angry emails from, from like ladies who like to take umbrage on behalf of all Italians, right? How dare you slander the country of Italy? They're not Italians, by the way. They're wearing the umbrage cap for Italy.
Yep.
But no, in the United States, we've invented service. We invented a service economy that's the envy of the world.
That's right.
And I had a French student, when I taught in France for a year, one of my students described America as the land where the customer is king.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. And that's poignant.
And but now the customer is on the verge of becoming, in that same metaphor, a vassal.
A vassal.
And when that happens, I mean, it was like we could get into that. Was it Nemo or whoever guy who said it was, first they came for the checkout lines and the next thing they came for the self-service. Will we notice that we've been cowed and coerced? I mean, they use COVID to leapfrog us into a darker future. But how – they have to listen to this podcast, by the way, to understand how to respond. Because you have sort of pioneered the art of response to an encroaching Orwellian service economy.
Well, I feel compelled to respond in a way that the same way that you felt compelled to teach that kid a lesson.
Yeah.
I want the companies to see the other side because they're just complying with all this. What do you call it? ESG and all this stuff. Without, when I started out in advertising a long time ago, I worked a lot with Fasoni Garrett. I think it was Mike Fasoni who told me. I can't remember if it was him or not, but I sure as hell remembered the statement. Nobody likes takeaways. Whatever you do, when you're putting these propositions out, these propositions, remember, nobody likes takeaways. So
always be closing.
Yeah, but it's one of those fundamental things.
Right.
Don't get caught taking shit away from people that you've been giving them.
Right.
Because they hate that.
Right.
And they don't consider that anymore. I mean, they're taking things away with reckless abandon.
And in my defense of corporate America, they're being coerced as well.
They're being coerced. That's right.
And the question is,
that's what I mean. Nobody would do that with purpose,
right?
Just on their own volition. It's like, let's do this; it'll save money. Well, there used to be somebody who'd go, yeah, but the customers would be really pissed because they'd hate that.
Right. I see that with power companies now. It's coming here to Evergy, and where they're going to punish you big time for using power at the time you really want to need and use power, all to keep the windmill economy alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I know from having been in meetings that they don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. I mean, the smarter people there don't want to do this. But they're being pressured by so many outside forces.
They are.
Outside, deep down, let's face it, Marxist forces that want them to create a society in which, customers are dethroned.
Mm-hmm. Top-down society. They are upset that we're consuming.
Yeah.
As much as we are, that our lifestyle is as good as it is, that we consume resources. Of course, they're Marxists, so they really don't give any credit for all the good things that are built piece by piece with that positive free market You know, it's the difference between enlightened self-interest and self-interest.
Right.
These are self-interested people.
Right.
Successful businesses are run by enlightened self-interest cultures
Right.
where, yeah, we're going to do everything we can to win, and it's got to be a win for the consumer.
That's right. And that's why, speaking of enlightened self-interest and businesses that take the customer into consideration,
Yes.
Real Media.
Real media
Here-
does.
here-
It's all about the customer.
Our hosts here, and they're much too nice to us and too good to us.
If they work with us, they can work for you.
Right. So anyhow, we are broadcasting from Real Media in Overland Park, Kansas. Look it up. And otherwise, we'll see you next week. This is Jack Cashel
Boy Edge.
here on, Upstream.
Upstream with Cashel and Edge.
See you guys next week.
Bye.